Welcome to Trivial Knits. My name is Laura. I have been knitting for about 20 years. I currently live in Los Angeles, but before that I lived in New York and I grew up in Michigan. Because of where I live, knitted objects are not strictly necessary, although I run cold. So even in Los Angeles, I love to wear a wool hat, a wool scarf, a wool sweater if I got it. But most of what I knit is purely for fun. I do a lot of brightly colored accessories like what I'm wearing today, which you might describe as trivial knits, get it? I also am into trivia and facts about fiber and yarn and knitting and history and geography and all of that kind of stuff. I'm a two-time Jeopardy champion. That's kind of my one claim to fame. And so on this channel, I like to share yarn and fiber related trivia. So I will be doing that. At the beginning of the video, I will share a question with you. You can post your guesses as to the answer in the comments, and then at the end of the video I will reveal the answers. This video is a little bit high concept in that I wanted to use it to reflect on one of my knitting practices, or one aspect of my knitting practice, which is pattern purchasing and knitting from patterns. So that's what I'll be talking about in a little bit. If that sounds good to you, stick around. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel so you can see other videos that are coming up. If you check out my previous videos, my last one was a discussion of my 2026 knitting plans, including my Make 9. And the one before that was a review of all 40 something patterns that I knitted in 2025. And I'll be talking about some of those today. But before we jump into that, let me address the potential elephant in the room. If you have watched my videos before, you know that I have been locked in battle with my camera and the lighting and the saturation because my favorite color is chartreuse, my favorite color to knit with too. And so in my previous videos, my chartreuse objects have not shown up that well. I think I have solved that problem. I am using a different setup with capturing the video, so hopefully the colors will be a little more accurate. The one hitch is that I'm filming a little late in the day today and it is getting into the evening time. So I had to have my indoor lights on, so the lighting is a little different than it usually is. And so apologies if there's glare or shadows or anything, but I figured it was better to just get the video done than wait for the perfect lighting, because that can be hard to get in the winter, especially when we're having kind of a rainy season in LA right now. So let's jump in with the trivia. So today's question comes from the Knitter's Book of Yarn, The Ultimate Guide to Choosing, Using, and Enjoying Yarn. Sorry, I had to hold it up so I could see what the title was. And the author is Clara Parks, who I think many people in the knitting community are familiar with. And this is a great book, especially if you want to just learn about different fibers and their qualities. So my question today comes from, let's see, page 26 of the Knitter's Book of Yarn. And it is about the camelid family. So, you know, there's many animals who provide fiber for yarn. There's sheep, there's goats, and then there are the animals in the camelid family. And the camelid family includes 5 fiber-producing animals. So your trivia question today is to name those 5 animals. One should be pretty obvious. The other 4 may be a little less obvious. So if you think you know the answer, or you own the Knitter's Book of Yarn and want to look it up on page 26, please feel free. Don't ask ChatGPT. We don't do that here. Take a guess if you don't know it. Use your brain and see if you can guess maybe at least one of the animals that are in the camelid family. And then at the end of the video, I will reveal to you what the 5 fiber-producing animals from the camelid family are. All right, so now that we've got the trivia question out of the way, let's get into the video. So for a little context, I own a lot of knitting patterns. I have been on Ravelry since 2008. I just went back and checked to see how long I've been on there. So I've been on there about 17 years at this point. My library has 679 patterns in it. Many of those are free patterns, or patterns that I have acquired without paying for, ethically, honestly. I haven't stolen the patterns, but I've acquired them. I haven't paid for all 679, but some of them I have paid for. And so as I was doing my annual accounting at the end of 2025, I was noticing how much I had spent on knitting patterns for the year. And that got me thinking whether I had sort of spent wisely on those patterns. So what I thought I would do is go through every pattern that I purchased in 2025 and sort of give a status update. Did I knit it? Did I start it and then frog it? Did I never get to it? And then I wanted to sort of monitor how much I spent on the patterns, because one of the things that I do as a habit is when I like a pattern, I think I want to make it, I'll stick it in my cart on Ravelry, and I might not make it right away. If it's something I want to make right away, then I'll just pay full price and cast it on. But often, because I have a big queue of things I'm working on, I don't need to cast something on right away after I discover it. So I'll put it in my cart, and then if I see that that designer has a sale, I'll then buy the pattern on sale, even if I'm not immediately ready to make it. But I figure I'm getting it at a discount, which is nice. I'm supporting the pattern designer when they are holding a sale. So they're getting an infusion of cash at that point. And then when I do want to make the pattern, it's already there in my library, which has worked fine. That's totally a valid way to approach buying patterns, I think. But something I noticed when reflecting back on all of these patterns I bought in 2025 was that I didn't knit a fair number of them. So I wondered, okay, did I actually waste my money by buying these patterns that I may never get to, or I didn't get to at least within the year? So what I want to do is go through and tell you about the 25 patterns I bought. I thought that might also just kind of serve as pattern inspiration. So if you're just looking for new patterns and looking to discover some, that's one of the reasons I like watching YouTube videos. So I'll tell you about the patterns I bought. I will tell you what they retail for normally. I'll tell you what I paid for them, so whether I got a discount on it. And then I will tell you what I did with it, whether I knitted it, frogged it, didn't knit it at all. And then at the end, I thought I would total up how much I would have paid for all these patterns without the discount, and then how much I would have paid if I had not bought any of the patterns that I ended up not knitting, to see if my approach of buying them on sale in advance is actually a good approach or not. I hope that makes sense. It's a little complicated, I understand, but I like doing these kind of videos that let me just dig into data and reflect on my practices and think about if I want to continue in the same way going forward. So we'll talk about that toward the end of the video, but let's just get into the patterns for now. So the first pattern I bought this year, I bought in February, or last year, I should say. We're very early in 2026, so it's still new. The first pattern I bought in 2025 was the Thru Lines by Andrea Mowry. That's the one I'm wearing right now. So it came out in February, and I bought it in February, I'm fairly certain. It was one of those patterns where I saw it pop up in Andrea Mowry's newsletter, and I was like, I'm buying that right now. I had the yarn in my stash. It is a fingering weight, and the pattern calls for Brooklyn Tweed Loft for the main yarn. So I had some that I had been sort of sitting on in this pollen color, and I knew it would be perfect for this pattern. So I bought it immediately, which meant that I did get a discount because Andrea Mowry always does a little release discount for newsletter subscribers. So the regular price of this pattern is $8. I got it for $6.80. US. And I knitted it right away. I loved it. One of my favorite knits of the year. A+ purchase, no regrets. Great. So that's the first pattern. I'm not going to say a lot about the actual knitted objects because all of these I have talked about in my Everything I Knit in 2025 video. And I want to keep this video not super long. It might still be kind of long, but I'm not going to go into details about the actual objects and the knitting them and everything. But you can go watch the previous video for that if you are interested. All right, so the first pattern was Andrea Mowry's Thru Lines. I don't know if I mentioned, there were 25 patterns total, okay? So we got quite a few to get through. Those are the 25 that I bought this year. That's not the number I knit. I knit many that I acquired in previous years. I knit many free patterns that I am not including in this list. But yeah, so there's the parameters. The second pattern I bought was by Stephen West. I will pop a picture up over here. And it was the retro chevron cowl. That was something he released with his bulky knit patterns. He did an ebook, I think, and that coincided with the release of his new bulky weight yarn, which I have not bought or used yet. So I used my own stash yarn to make the retro chevron cowl. And I paid $7, or no, normally this pattern costs $7.35 US. And that's with, you know, international conversion. So that number might not be strictly accurate when you go look at the pattern. But today it was $7.35. I paid $6.80 for it. So he must have been running a little discount when he first released it. So I cast that on with Barocco Vintage that I had in my stash that I had received as a gift. And I held it double because that's a worsted weight yarn. So I held it double to get the bulky weight gauge that pattern called for. And I really liked the color and the texture of it. But because of that superwash, I'm pretty sure that yarn is superwash, and it has a high acrylic content. The weight of the yarn held double was just a little too much. It didn't have a nice airy feel that you'd kind of want from a bulky weight cowl. So I ended up frogging it. I knew that was not going anywhere good. And so I would make that pattern again if the right yarn came into my stash, but I did not end up following through on that pattern. All right. The third pattern I bought was also by Stephen West. I bought it at the same time as the other one. And that was the cableage cowl. And I do have that to share over here. So I did end up finishing this. This one I used Knit Picks Swish Worsted in the color highlighter yellow, I think. Hopefully you can see kind of the brightness. It's a little, the tones are a little warm today with the lighting, but you can still kind of see that it's a bright highlighter yellow. And this is a loftier yarn, worsted weight yarn, so it worked out okay to hold it double. And I talked more about this one in my Everything I Knit in 2025 video. So this one is normally $7.35 and I paid $5.09 for it. All right, and then the next item was another Stephen West, and that was the Brio Ripple wrap. And I paid $8.50, oh no, it retails for $8.58 and I paid $5.93. So you can see I'm saving like a buck or two here and there on these patterns that I'm buying when they are on sale. And all the ones I've talked about so far, I did cast on right away. So I bought them knowing I wanted to knit them immediately. This one I did start and I ended up stopping. And I don't even know if I'm going to frog it because it used small little stripes of yarn. But it's, you know, it's a big fingering weight shawl, and I intended to use some stash yarn, which I think would have worked out fine, but I just found myself not enjoying the process of knitting it. And I just knew I didn't have it in me to do like feet and feet more of it the way a Stephen West shawl requires. So this was one, I guess I kind of regret buying this pattern because I don't see myself ever making it in the future. But I did start it, right? I tried it, and I wouldn't have been able to know I didn't like it until I tried it. So it wasn't so much a wasted purchase as a learning kind of purchase. All right, the next one is the Snaggletooth Shawl by Amba O'Brien. And that one I got for 50% off. So it's normally $7, and Amba O'Brien, I think it's been over the past year. Every Friday she does a 50% off sale on one specific pattern. And so this one was in my queue. I knew I wanted to make it soon, and then it went on sale for 50% off. So I got it for $3.50 US, but I have not knitted it yet. So this is the first one that I did pay for. I got a good deal on it. Didn't make it into my knitted patterns of the year. I do still intend to make it. It's in my sort of loose queue for 2026, and I have plenty of yarn that I could use for it. So this one is like still might be made by me someday. We don't know if the money was wasted yet. All right, then the next pattern that I bought was Olga Jazzy's Nieji hat. I will pop the picture up here. So this one I saw in a yarn store that I visited over the previous holidays, and it was knitted up in Brooklyn Tweed Arbor. And so I thought, well, I could get some of that, and this would be a good one to make. And so then when Olga had a 50% off sale, I grabbed that one up. So it normally retails for $6. I got it for $3. I have not made this one yet. I later in the year made a different 2x2 rib hat, and I just wasn't super happy with it. And it kind of turned me off of 2x2 hats. So this one I may still make. I do have the yarn for it now, but I haven't made it yet. So it might get made in 2026, might not. We'll see. All right, then the next item I did make, and this is the Moki beanie by Atelier Cliche. And it's showing up again a little orangier yellow than it truly is. But this is made in Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks DK. I think this is a limited edition colorway, so I'm not sure if you can get this currently, but I think the colorway is limoncello, if I'm remembering that correctly. So this was one I had in my queue for a while, this pattern, and then the designer had a sale. So it normally costs $6.84 US, and I got it for $3.84 US. And then I knitted it fairly soon after that. So that one worked out well. All right, then, I got to do a reach for my next one. So the next one that I bought is the Grass Fields Scarf by Lisa Hannes. And I bought this because I was going on a trip and I needed something that I knew I could travel with, that I wouldn't have to keep looking at the pattern. That would be just like one strand of yarn, nice and portable. So I bought this one full price. So the retail price is $6.74. I actually paid $6.43, and I think that has to do with just the exchange rate from the currency that this pattern is sold in to my currency. So I probably, got it on the low end, but I did pay full price, $6.74 US-ish. And I'll show this to you. So this is in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the color Haystack. Just keep it over on this side. And it's okay. I mean, it's knitting up nicely. I'm sure the yarn, the bottom part is blocked a little bit. It's soft. I love this yarn. But I just realized it's a long scarf. It is tapered at the end, but it's a long one width kind of scarf. And I just realized I didn't see myself wearing it. I think it would be great if you lived in a winter climate under a coat, but that's almost never how I wear scarves. I'm almost always wearing them more like a shawl or like a neckerchief type style. So I just prefer the long pointed, you know, tip to tip style scarves that I've knitted a lot of this year. So this one, and you know, wasn't the most entertaining pattern to make. It's very repetitive. So it was good for traveling. It served its purpose. It kept me occupied while I was on a flight and stuff. But I'm not gonna finish it. Okay, then my next pattern was the Funfetti Raglan by Andrea Mowry. I had discussed this one in my previous videos. This one retails for $8. No, retails for $10, and I got it on sale for $7. So I think Andrea was running like a 30% off sale at some point, and I had this in my queue. I knew I wanted to make it, so I snapped it up. And this ended up being my Rhinebeck sweater. And I knit this using West Wool Bicycle Held Double. So it's a DK weight sweater. So this one worked out well, got it on sale, took advantage of it, and made the object. All right, the next item is the Synced Shawlette by Suzanne Sommer. And this one I got on sale. It had been in my queue. She had a sale. So it's normally $6.13 US. I got it for $4.81. I have not knitted this one yet, but it is in my Make 9 for 2026. So if you saw my previous video, it might look familiar to you. So I do hope to make it soon. I have some yarn picked out. I'm going to do it in Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, but it has not been knitted yet. All right, then next were my Andrea Mowry Nightlights shawls. So I bought this pattern, another immediate buy. So I bought it the week it came out. It retails for $8. I got it for $6.80 with the newsletter discount. And I ended up knitting this pattern twice. So I definitely got my money's worth out of this one. So this was actually the second one I made. And this is out of, sorry, I'm gonna figure out where to show it. Custom Woolen Mills Mule Spinner yarn, DK. And these are natural sheep colors. This yarn is produced in Alberta. So I got it when I was in Calgary. So that was kind of a fun local yarn to pick up and knit up. And so that was actually my second one. The first one I made is not dissimilar from the one in Andrea Mowry's sample. And this is, but I use different yarns. This is Brooklyn Tweed, Shelter, and Spin Cycle Dream State worsted weight yarns. So love these, great purchase, happy with the immediate cast on, it all worked out. The next pattern I bought was the Shima Shawl by Beatrice Mace, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And I bought the Shima Shawl Mini, which is just a smaller version of that Shima Shawl. So the Shima Shawl I had had in my queue for quite a while. And I think when the Mini came out, I was excited to bank that one too. So I had them both in my cart, and then she had a sale. So the Shima Shawl retails for $7.35 and I got it for $5.14. And the Shima Shawl Mini retails for $6.13 and I got it for $4.28. So I got a little bit of a discount on those two. And I ended up only knitting the Mini. So I optimistically bought the full-size shawl and the mini shawl, and then I had an opportunity to make the Mini, and I realized I don't really want to make the large one now. It just like wasn't my style of process knitting that I want to be doing. It's a great pattern, very thoughtful, very innovative, interesting construction. So I would recommend it if you are looking for something like that. But for me, it was a little too complicated. Like I just had to be in the pattern more than I wanted to be. So I don't see myself making the full size shawl. So one might say that that $5, although I did save a couple bucks off the full price, was maybe wasted $5 because I will probably not be knitting the full size version. All right, then my next object was a pair actually of objects that I bought when Laura Penrose had a sale. So I had a couple of her patterns in my queue wish list that I was interested in making, one of which was the Russell scarf. So when she had the sale, I bought this one up and I did start it. And so this is a, I think it's bulky weight. I'm using Wonder Fluff by Knit Pick. So it is quite a large, thick yarn, and it's at a large gauge, large needles. I can't remember the exact size. Sorry. I paid $4.99 for this. It retails for $7.03 US. Again, that's like the exchange rate. It's some round number of British pounds, I'm sure. So I got a couple dollars off of this and I started knitting it and I realized I just don't enjoy knitting it. I don't enjoy knitting with the really big needles, which kind of surprised me. I thought that would be kind of fun and everything would just kind of zoom along, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the yarn needle combination, if it's the color work. I don't know. I found myself not enjoying working on this and also like having a hard time imagining myself enjoying the finished object because again, it's just like a long skinny scarf, which when I lived in New York, loved that. And this would have been perfect. It actually reminds me, the texture of it reminds me of a scarf I had there that was store-bought. But I just didn't see myself really getting a lot of wear out of it. So I didn't want to sort of suffer through the knitting of it to get to the finished object. So this will be frogged, but good learning experience. I will figure out something else to do with the yarn that I bought for it. And it was my first Laura Penrose pattern. So that was kind of fun. I enjoy watching her YouTube channel. So it was just nice to get to know her patterns a bit. The other pattern I bought was the Jacques scarf, which I think was a new release at the time when I purchased both of those patterns. So that one also retails for $7.03 and I got it for $4.99. I think that's a DK weight pattern. I have not cast it on yet. So that's another one where I got the pattern on sale, but I didn't end up knitting it. I do hope to knit it in 2026. It's still in my queue. I haven't given up on it. So we will see. Okay, then the next pattern is the Spiralka hat by Krupa Knits. This is another one I had sitting in my cart or my queue, whichever, and then the designer had a sale. So it normally retails for $7.97 and I got it for $4.95. So about $3 off. And it's still sitting in my queue. I have not cast it on. I have looked at it a couple times as like, oh, maybe I'll do that for my next hat pattern. But I think I got a little tripped up by just figuring out what colors or what yarns I might want to use because it's 2 colors. So I have to figure out like what's the level of contrast I want here. And so I haven't knit this one yet. It's still in my queue. I still hope to knit it someday, but it's a little less of a easy to cast on pattern for me. So haven't done it yet. All right, then the next pattern I purchased was Andrea Mowry's Traveler. This is, I think the hoodie is the pattern picture. I plan to do the crew neck. I have not done this one yet, but I bought this one in her annual birthday sale. So it was quite a big discount. It normally retails for $9 and I got it for $5.22. So I knew I wanted to make it someday. I knew I would get the yarn for it. I actually had some yarn for it. I had some Brooklyn Tweed Imbue that I swatched for it with. But then I saw, I think it's Emily Curtis. I saw her YouTube vlog where she made the Traveler out of Handspun, and I just thought that looked so good that I was like, okay, no, I have to do that with like a variegated color changing yarn. I can no longer use the solid color Imbue for the Traveler, even though I do think that would look great. But I've shuffled that yarn off to do the Come Back Again next year, which I have not bought the pattern for yet. But the Traveler, now I bought some yarn at Rhinebeck. That will be that one, and hopefully you'll see that on the channel at some point this year. But so that one has not been cast on, although I did get the pattern at a pretty deep discount. All right, then the next two patterns I bought were again from Lisa Hannes, who the Grassfields scarf was, and she was having a sale, and I have knit at least one of her patterns before, the Coral Reef scarf that I really enjoyed. So, she has a lot of tip-to-tip scarf constructions, which if you've been here for a couple episodes, you know that I'm a little obsessed with right now. So I knew I would want to make these, so I grabbed them in the sale. Then they were the Dewdrop scarf, which retails for $7.97 and I got for $5.89. And the Pinecone scarf, which is the same price. So retails for $7.97 and I got it for $5.89. I have not knitted either of them yet. So they are still there in my queue. I still hope to make them when the right yarn comes along, perhaps, but I have not started them yet. All right, we're moving along, just a few left. So then the next pattern that I bought was the Florence hat by Eleanor Mortensen. I'll pop the pattern picture up here. I knitted this one twice. This was a knit along for Rhinebeck with Junction Fiber Mill yarns. So I've got these two. I'll hold them over here. And this one is in sport weight, making tracks and undyed. And this one is in DK weight, roots and undyed, all Junction Fiber Mill yarns. So that one retailed for $4.90. I paid $4.89, but I paid full price essentially for that one. And I knitted it twice, got my money's worth. That was great. All right, then the next shawl was another Andrea Mowry, another immediate purchase. I got it with the first week newsletter discount. This is the Jaunty. This is a DK weight, half fisherman's rib, tip to tip, shallow triangle. There's a spin along, knit along for it going on right now. It's taken the knitting community by storm. Everyone loves it. It really is just a joy to knit. I can't wait to make more. So this one was $8 full price. I got it for $6.80. Excellent purchase. Will definitely get my money's worth out of it because I will be knitting more than one. All right. Next, we have the Ola or Ole hat by Suzanne Mueller. I paid, well, this retails for $4.63. I paid $4.59. Again, I paid full price for it. I just knew I wanted to cast it on and I bought it, didn't wait for a sale. And so I did two versions of this one as well. So there's, at first I did this marled version. It's a DK weight pattern, half fisherman's rib, like the Jaunty. This one I held together knitting for Olive and some scrap single ply merino hand dyed that I had. And this one is Wool of the Andes worsted in the color Buttercup, which is showing up much more faithfully than it has in my previous videos. So hopefully you're appreciating the bright yellow of this one. So again, got my money's worth, even though I paid full price. It's a very reasonably priced pattern, $4.63 for I think a quite comprehensive hat pattern. It shows you how to do the tubular cast on. So it's like just got a useful tutorial within the pattern itself. And then it's thoughtfully constructed and I think results in a really nice hat. So yeah, definitely got my money's worth on this one. Then the next pattern I bought was the Slanty Stripes by Emily Curtis. And this actually was a gift for somebody who I was doing fundraising for food banks in November, and a viewer or a follower from Instagram donated to my fundraiser, and I did a drawing and she won a free pattern of her choosing. So that's the one she chose. So I know nothing about this pattern. I don't plan to knit it, but I paid $7 for it full price and gifted it to the recipient. Then the next pattern I bought was the Maxine hot water bottle by Laura Penrose. Hot water bottle cover, I should say. And this was another kind of impulse buy. I have been wanting to make a couple hot water bottles for my kids for Christmas, and I did end up making them. But I kind of didn't want to have to do the math to figure out the mini hot water bottle dimensions and gauge and everything. And I knew that Laura Penrose's pattern had a mini in it. So I just bought it on impulse, and I still did end up having to do some gauge math and stuff with it because I used different weights of yarn. But it was just like peace of mind to know that somebody had kind of done most of the work to figure it out. So I paid full price for that. It was $6.28. And that's what I paid. And then the last pattern that I bought in 2025 was the Diamante Shawl by Sweater Freak. I'll pop it up here. And this is a work in progress right now. So it's on my Make 9 for 2026. I knew I was going to cast it on. It ended up being my Christmas Eve cast on. And this one had sat in my cart since the pattern came out, I think several months ago this year. And I knew I wanted to make it, but for this one, I was like, I'm just going to wait and see if there's a sale. And there wasn't. So when I was ready to cast it on, I just paid full price for it. So this one cost $7, and that is what I paid. So there you have it. Those are the 25 patterns that I paid my own money for in 2025. And in total, I knitted 11 of them. So actually less than half, although I knitted 15 objects total because I knitted a few of them twice. So yeah, there's that figure. There were 4 that I started but ended up frogging. And then there were 9 that I didn't even start. I bought them on sale, didn't cast them on. And then 1 I bought as a giveaway. So that one's kind of like out of the mix. So the total amount I spent on those 25 patterns in 2025 was $137.91. If I had not gotten any discounts on them, if I had just bought them full price, I had not sort of jumped on the newsletter discounts or waited for them to go on sale, I would have spent $180.25. So I saved about $42.34 by purchasing these patterns when they were on sale. Okay. But 9 of them I didn't knit at all. So did I really save money? That's the question. So I totaled up the amount that I spent on those 9 patterns that I didn't even begin. And the total was $43.39. So almost exactly $1 more than the amount I saved by buying them on discount. So to me, that was kind of surprising. I sort of figured I was going to do this math and I was going to realize I have been irresponsibly purchasing these patterns. I do not need to be buying patterns I'm not going to make. And it's like a false win by getting them on sale. But there's only $1 difference. So if I ever knit these patterns in the future, even just one of them in the future, it will have then been worth it, right? To get it at a discount. So I kind of don't have a great answer. I think the answer is that it's fine to be doing things the way I've been doing. I'm supporting those designers. When a designer holds a sale, it's because they want people to come buy their patterns, right? They're trying to get a little bit of eyes on their work, a little infusion of cash into their business. So I feel good about supporting designers doing that. And I feel okay about having a bunch of patterns in my stash that in my library that I might never make, because I might make them. There's a lot of possibility there, right? And several of the ones I mentioned here, I really do intend to make in 2026. So you'll have to watch the channel or look at my Instagram and hold me to it, see if I really do. But yeah, I think the answer is that it's fine to buy things even if you're not quite ready to cast them on. However, I might, just for the experiment of it all, try that approach in 2026. I will wait until I am ready to cast something on. If it's on sale at the moment, great. If it's not going to worry about it. And we'll see how the math ends up mathing next year, if I remember to total this all up next year. And then there's also like a middle approach I could take, which would be to only buy the patterns on sale if they're at a deep discount, like a 40% off or 50% off. Those patterns I feel pretty good about because I usually get them for like $3 or $4. So it's negligible, really. So I don't know. We'll see how I go this year. I'm either going to do that where I'll get them if they're really heavily discounted, or I'm just going to wait and not buy them until I'm ready to cast them on. I think that would be, for science, the better way to go, because it'll be more of a strict contrast with the way I approached it this year. So we can see how that goes. So yeah, I mean, I hope this video was somewhat interesting for someone other than myself, since it was a little bit just sort of inward looking at my own pattern purchasing behaviors. But hopefully it inspired you to think about how you purchase patterns and maybe think about your reasons for buying them at certain times. Maybe reconsider your reasons. I'd love to hear if you have your own weird, quirky rules for when you can buy patterns and when you won't. I just love to hear like what makes other people tick and how they approach things. And if there's a totally different way of thinking about it than I have, I would love to hear about that too. But I'd also love to hear if you do things the same way I do. Let's be friends. So yeah, I would love to hear your comments or see your comments, I guess. They're not going to be read to me. I will read them myself. So please leave a comment below. And before I go, I've got to read the answer to today's trivia question. So as a reminder from a little while back, today's question comes from The Knitter's Book of Yarn by Clara Parks. We are on page 26. And the question I posed was, what are the 5 fiber-producing animals in the camelid family? And I'm going to read you the answer, and then I'll give you maybe some little facts, extra facts about the camelids that you might find interesting if you're a knitter. So on page 26, Clara Parks says, the camelid family includes 5 fiber-producing animals: the camel itself, the one true camel species, and 4 South American descendants: the alpaca, the llama, the guanaco, and the vicuña. So those are the 5. We've got camel, alpaca, llama, guanaco, and vicuña. Those are all the camelids that produce fiber. Let's see. So she says the one type of camel that knitters care about is the Bactrian camel, whose dual coat includes not only scratchy guard hairs, but surprisingly soft and warm down hair. Like the cashmere goat, the camel goes through a natural molting season every spring. Camel down has a softness similar to merino, but it behaves like cashmere. It has crimp, but very little elasticity, and it does not felt easily. The fiber also doesn't bleach easily, so you'll normally find it used in yarns whose color either masks or enhances the natural tan shade of the camel fiber. So those are just some bonus facts about camel fiber. There's, of course, lots of other facts about the other types of camelids, but if I started talking about alpaca, I would be here for too long. So I encourage you to go check out The Knitter's Book of Yarn so you can learn your own fiber and yarn related trivia. And I may have a couple more questions from this book. So if you come back for my next video, hopefully you'll learn more. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like this kind of thing. If you don't, that's fine. I get it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.